Cheers. Hi there, I'm Colin, aka the Tone Wizard, and I hope you're doing very well wherever it is that you may happen to be. I'm doing just fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. And this is my full album review of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's brand new album, PetroDragonic, Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth, and the beginning of Merciless, Damnation, which I will abbreviate just simply into PetroDragonic Apocalypse from here on forward for brevity's sake. Now, this is a concept album that tells a dark and apocalyptic story of the end of the world and the rise of a new evil order. Stu Mackenzie said that the new album came from jam sessions and is, quote, about humankind, and it's about planet Earth, but it's also about witches and dragons and shit, which I love. He's also said that the album's lyrics were inspired by Shakespeare, the Bible, and that they used a secondary voice that appears in each song like words that were spoken centuries ago. The album's title is a reference to the petrodollar, apparently, which I know nothing about, but the petrodollar system, which is a theory that links oil prices to the US dollar and its global dominance. Well, there could be nothing more evil than that, unless you like American movies, in which case, if those things are linked somehow, fucking keep that shit flowing. Anyways, he's also said that the album is a sequel to their previous album, Made in Timeland, which was originally planned to be an exclusive vinyl-only release for their canceled Timeland Festival show, which was canceled in 2021 due to, I don't know, certain global circumstances. Now, I'm going to be reviewing this album track by track in my own style. And I'm sorry if you're getting any bleed from the other room there. My wife is watching the Sex and the City movie, which I have no comment on, and there might be some bleed through because we live in a tiny place here. In any event, I'm going to be reviewing track by track, and I'm going to be looking at this album in terms of several factors right from the get-go. So where and why was I listening to this album, and for how long prior to this review? So I've been mostly listening to this album at work, in my work headphones. I've been blasting it in the truck, and before I did this video, I gave them a listen with some good headphones there. And the why I'm listening to it, I am a King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard fan. I would have to say that I would probably be a very light gauge Gizzard fan. But the reason why I wanted to do this full album review is because of the two singles that came out and the music videos that were there for them. So Gila Monster was the first video single from the album, and it was fantastic. I did a full reaction video to that song on my channel. Please go and check that out. I'm not going to waste much more time talking about it right now. And then, of course, they put out the Dragon video, which I thought was also good. It kind of surprised me. I thought with all the production value of that first video that one might be a little bit less, but it was not. That was not the case. It was fucking fantastic. So the second factor will be, did this album grab me right away, or did I have to give it a few spins? And I will fairly say that it did grab me right away. The opening track sucked me right in, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So were there at least three good tracks? Yes, there most certainly were. The first track, Motor Spirit, is a fantastic track. Gila Monster is an amazing track, albeit supported by an epic music video. Third great track, well, I'd say there'd be four. I think... Well, I'm just going to say three for now. So Dragon is also a pretty epic track. And in my opinion, if you have three good tracks on an album, they can kind of anchor it beginning, middle, and end. And it's just as I've described with those three tracks. And it usually ties an album together, even if it's sort of lulling here and there, which this one does in all fairness. So next factor is, were there dynamics, both musically and lyrically? And there certainly were. Now, I skimmed through a Pitchfork review of this thing that kind of just dismissed it as being some kind of homage to speed metal, which I think is complete bullshit. I mean, what is music but an ongoing homage to everything that you love, all of your influences condensing down into something, the music that you want to hear. And King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, with their 24 albums, they have time. It's not going to cost them valuable time in their career, clearly, to go ahead and make this fucking kick-ass metal album. So... but that being said, there were dynamics on there. We'll get into them as we're discussing each song individually, but there were peaks and valleys. There were interesting ideas that caught my ear. There were great guitar parts, some really good drum parts. The sixth factor is, were there some sing-along moments? And all I have to say to that is, Hila. which I'm not going to scream animatedly because my little 1-year-old guy is sleeping in the next room and I don't want to wake him up, or this video is going to come to an abrupt end. So the final factor that I look at when I'm reviewing an album is, will I listen again? Abso-fucking-lutely, I will, and I did, and I'm going to. So I'm going to give you my full official album rating at the end of that, but I just thought I would go over some of the factors that I consider when rating an album so that there's no confusion. This isn't just a bunch of fucking bald speak here, folks. Cheers. And if you're newly subscribed to my channel, thank you very much for getting on board, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say down in the comments below. Honestly, that's what keeps me doing this channel, because it sure ain't the fucking $2.18 that I've made from ad revenue. Okay, so let's get right into it here. Track number 1, Motor Spirit. This track instantly made me think of Slayer and Motorhead, and not just because of the name of the tune, but it kicks in relentlessly with really gritty guitars and that fucking chucker speed feeling that I used to have when I left the biker bar I used to frequent regularly in my 20s. That kind of, your neck is going, your teeth are gritting, and you're oblivious to weather and circumstances. It's a fantastic feeling, and this song really captures it. I can remember speed walking home from there in the snow a couple of times and feeling like it was a warm summer's day. I think it's that internal vibration, that friction that your body creates in that state. I'm not saying I ever did substances. I'm just saying it's a feeling I used to get. And Motorhead may have had something to do with it, but I did want to point out that there's the throat singing that kind of comes up in the Motor Spirit track, and I've noticed this across the King Giz stuff broadly, and I think it's additive in this case. I'll discuss it a little more on another track, but there's also these squiggly octave guitar lines that really keep that jaw clenched and keep the song moving before it descends down into a murky tom interlude that evokes the limited feeling and experience that of the band Tool that I have. Now, I'm not a big Tool fan, but even with the times that I have listened to Tool, I could definitely pick up some influences, in my opinion, in this track and throughout the album, as well as a few others that I thought were pretty obvious. So, actually, Joey and Lucas were on a YouTube channel that I've been watching that's completely bizarre and awesome. It's called Office Hours Live with Tim Heidecker, who is of Tim and Eric fame. So if you know what that is, you'll know that this is a pretty goofy show. Now, apparently Joey and Lucas and the rest of the band are a fan of this show, but they were on there as a guest, I think, last week, and a fan asked them about how they create the polyrhythms and how they can stay focused on these elaborate progressions and so on and so forth. And Joey simply just said, by listening to Tool, and went on to say something to the effect of that the Tool album Lazarus came out when they were teenagers, and that obviously it was a big influence. So again, I'm not a big Tool fan, but I think I definitely did hear some stuff in there. The other thing that I could pick out, and it's kind of vague and broad because they were such a huge influence on metal in general, but I would say that the Slayer influence is definitely present in here, and they've actually cited Slayer as one of their inspirations for their 2019 album Infest the Rat's Nest, which was their first official foray into thrash metal, and it's my understanding that they've covered Slayer's song Raining Blood back in 2017 as a tribute to the late great Jeff Hanneman, who was a fucking riff master, and definitely if you're into chugging speed metal, thrash metal, and those nice gritty guitars, Jeff was a master. So cheers to Jeff. Thanks for all the riffs, buddy. A little late, but better late than never. Track number 2, Supercell. This is a double kick powered track, and Stu, in my opinion, is going full Lemmy in this one. And I also get Metallica Battery vibes off of this song, just with the double kick and just the relentlessness of the track in general. Now, in terms of Stu's voice, I think in general, the more Giz that I listen to, I'm really becoming more impressed with his vocals and how much grit he can get for a guy who doesn't seem like he chain smokes, chugs off-brand whiskey, and works as a line cook late at night with sleeve tattoos and evidence of a former eyebrow ring. But this is speed metal, and I like it, and it's great for the gym. I will say I went for a jog with this stuff the other day, and when I say jog, I mean an accelerated walk. It might look to an onlooker as though I'm perpetually falling uphill, but never quite falling. But I try to stay fit for the future. I try to stay fit for my beers and for my family, of course, obviously. Track number 3. This one I listened to and I was like, okay, these mids have been fucking scooped into utter oblivion. And we're going to just, little Professor Colin's going to come in here, and we're going to talk about scoop mids. I did a little bit of research on the gear that they may have been using. I used kind of an aggregate source, and immediately I saw a Big Muff Pi, which is a great fuzz pedal, classic fuzz pedal. There's lots of variations now, but the Big Muff Pi is a classic. And the Earthquaker Devices Hoof Reaper, which is, I think, a 2-channel overdrive of some kind, or maybe a distortion. I could be wrong about that. But then I saw this little guy. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get him in focus. There he is. I saw that they may have been using, and this is unconfirmed as of now, but they may have been using the beloved or maligned Boss Metal Zone MT2, which I love. I love this pedal. This was one of the first pedals that I ever had. It's got my name in marker on the back underneath the label there, and I still have it. In fact, I love these pedals so much that there was a period of time where I would go on Facebook Marketplace late at night, and I would find people selling these pedals on Marketplace, and I would try and talk them out of selling the pedal. Most of them were just annoyed at me for wasting their time. Some of them responded. It was kind of funny. Anyways, when I say these guitars sound very scooped, and that's kind of like the classic kind of thrash metal sound. It's referring to scooping the mids, either on your amp, either in post EQ, or on the guitar, the distortion pedal that you're using that keeps falling out of favor. So there I am. Anyways, you'll notice this pedal is famous for scoop mids, if you don't know, and that is because of the EQ section in the middle there. So you have, come on now, you fucker. You have a level, you have distortion, then here you can scoop, you can just reduce the mids. If you don't know what mids are, it's about frequency range. You have high frequency on one side, low frequency on the other side, and mid-range stuff in the middle. And to get the classic scooped metal sound, you just scoop those mids, you turn them down. And the reason why it's scooped, as far as I know, is because if you were looking at it on an equalizer, you'd notice that the signal had been scooped in the middle, like some bald guy took a big hungry right out of the middle there. Anyways, that's that lesson of Professor fucking Baldy McGee here, the Tone Wizard. Track 4 is Witchcraft, and I'm going to have to say right now that Stu might deserve the award for the best woos in the post Michael Jackson / Ric Flair era, and it's on full swing on this one. I always love it's like hearing the Beatles make that same noise. It's just a release of energy. I love it when they do it, and I thought that we would actually bring Professor Colin out again, and we would talk about Stu Mackenzie's voice just a little bit more here, folks, because I like what they do. Now, I've noticed in their early live stuff that Stu sings, and so do the others. I think Ambrose definitely does. Ambi, as they call him, as everybody in Australia just gets an IE or a Y tagged onto the end of the name. I'm going to be moving down there in 2024. I'm wondering what people are going to call me, Baldy, Tony. I guess they would call me by my name, Colin, Cole. I don't know if they just shorten it. Anyways, that's besides the point. But Stu's vocal sound, we'll just use him for an example, utilizes a slapback sound, and it sounds to my ear, and this is my assessment of it, slightly overdriven. And I noticed that in the live stuff that I've seen them play, a lot of it, they're using one of these guys, most of them. Stu is definitely for sure. You've even seen him engulfing the microphone. This is a Shure SM57. It's an instrument mic. It's a vocal mic. It actually has the same cartridge in it as my fucking fancy every podcaster without a head of hair in the world is using one of these right now. But it's a great instrument mic. It's built like a brick shit house, and the cool thing about this microphone is it sounds great to sing into if you're paying proper attention to your vocal distance, your distance to the mic. But also, if you come right in on this guy, as I'll do to this one just for effect, it clips. You can kind of manually overdrive this and get a cool sound out of it. In combination with the slapback delay that he puts on his vocals, gives that classic King Giz effect, in my opinion. If you know different, please let me know in the comments. But if you don't know what a slapback delay is, well, Professor Tone Wizard is going to show you right here, folks. So I've got my fancy dancy software here that I use to run my digital audio interface, and I have some effects available to me, which I will just turn up right now. And you can hear a very crude and somewhat exaggerated slapback delay. And what it is a very short delay with few trails. I put a couple of trails on there so you could hear it. But basically, you adjust the time of your delay, which is the time after what you're saying, and the delay occurs, and you make that pretty quick. And you explain these technical details with the slapback effect so that it's hard to understand. And then you turn the volume of the repeat up so that you can hear it. And basically, you've got a slapback, which I'll turn off now. But that effect was made very popular in the 50s and 60s with country guitar. They would use that effect to give it that really twangy sound with that and a tank of reverb if you had it. But that's, in my opinion, a breakdown of Stu's vocal sound, which they used incredible effect. Now, I've seen the live stuff that they've been doing recently, and it looks like they're using the bigger Shure mic. It looks like they might not be using the 57s anymore, but that technique was also used, the close mic with the 57 cupping the mic, which you're not supposed to do, but Stu actually engulfing it somewhat phallically to overdrive the mic and give him that extra bit of crackle. Julian Casablancas from The Strokes, he used that to great effect on the album This Is It, and people initially said that they didn't like the way that album sounded. It sounded too garage or whatever, but I think it sounds fucking fantastic, and it sounded like nothing else at the time, even though there were a bunch of other kind of like, cool but not cool rock bands around at the time. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about here. But track 4, Witchcraft, I did really enjoy, and it's got some world-class woos in there. And again, just another blistering hot metal track on this album. So track number 5 is Gila Monster, and like I say, I did a full-length reaction video. First time I ever saw it on the channel. You can go check that out whenever you feel like it. But I would like to just reiterate some of the things I loved about it. It's an epic track with chugging riffs, soaring leads, and a killer vocal. And there's more vocal dynamics in this song in terms of parts that you can say it's this section, then it's this section, it's this section. Like Motor Spirit was kind of one kind of thing the whole way through, but in this one you had a chorus, the Gila, 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 and or maybe we should put some just for more fun here. We should just Gila, Gila, Gila. I don't want to wake my son up being a friggin' complete dumbass, but at any rate, I love the vocal sections in it, and you had the section particularly that I liked when Ambi took that kind of double time section, and he had in the video he had those hand signals going, and it was kind of like, I don't know what the term for it is. Maybe it would be syncopated with the drums, and the drummer is just doing that China kind of dead crash sound to accentuate the offbeat, I think it was. But fucking fantastic stuff, and the way that they interchange the vocals, and when Ambi comes in the first time and then Stu comes right back in with the singing after the first section, it just hits and hits and hits and hits. This is as perfect of a song as I've ever heard the Giz do, and it's unapologetic metal. And like I say about the video, is it ticks so many boxes for me. You've got the fantasy element. I'm huge into fantasy, and in my opinion, the production on this fucking thing was better than that new piece of shit Lord of the Rings thing that came up, the Rings of Power or whatever it is. It literally just sounds like a cheap ripoff of somebody making up something that's not Lord of the Rings. You're like, oh, Rings for the Lord, or like Rings of the Power. Like it's just awful, and the lyrics are better than most of the dialogue in that show. But that's another conversation for another day. Please go watch my video or watch the actual video if you haven't seen it. It's fucking fantastic. So track number 6 is another epic track. They're back to back. It's Dragon. The intro to this song is peak Gizzard. It's the best of all the stuff they do. Just the way that they can make a simple idea really smash by everybody being completely musically and energetically committed to it. And, the live footage that I've seen from them playing the KEXP and some of the stuff like Magma and Ice 5 and stuff like that, when they lock in together, it's fucking majestic. And the way that they can make 3 guitars sound unique and have things going on, which I wouldn't say is maybe the case in this one here, but that beginning 2 minutes of this song is just fucking fantastic. And once again, we have that throat singing in the background, which I have to say I'm honestly not really a fan of. I would kind of compare it to the fact that I'm not really a fan of the saxophone. And the main reason is it's not that it's a bad instrument. It's not that there's great sax use throughout music, and there will be again, and I will love when I hear it, but it always comes in so abruptly, right? It's like if you remember those fucking Kool-Aid commercials where that jug of Kool-Aid just fucking kicks in a wall and comes in. That's how it comes in. It's not subtle. It's not supposed to be, but when I hear it, it just kind of goes, ooh, like there's something in my soul that just feeds back against the sound of that and a sax for some reason. But that's just me. Now, this track also gave me some retro video game vibes and like kind of Command and Conquer stuff. And I was kind of feeling that even before it went into the section when I was watching the music video where you had the tanks and all that stuff. But it was really fucking cool. And if you've recently been struck by a falling object and need to be reminded once again that Michael Cavanagh is a fucking top 10 rock drummer alive right now, and in my opinion should go down as one of the best rock drummers of all time for versatility, performance, live performance, recording performance. Watching him chop through this stuff live in the footage that I've seen on YouTube has been inspiring. He's a fucking machine. Some of the little the snare fills are like fucking, they're so fast, and the cymbal work is blinding, and definitely he's definitely one of the best right now. So fucking cheers to him. Now, when everything drops out in this song and Stu just kind of chants dragon, the drummer and the bassist really have a nice, tasteful, and quiet moment, and they get into a little groove with cymbals and some really nice playing. And I thought it could have gone on longer, but I guess it's a 9-minute 42 second song. I guess you gotta get it in when you can. But the groove in there is sick, and I thought it could have gone on much longer. Now, at 9:42, the track is a bit long, and I have to admit that watching it without the video, it kind of labored on a little bit. Track number 7, which is the final track on the album, Flamethrower. And let me tell you, there's a punishing quality to the final track, and it kind of reminds me of that scene in The Simpsons where Homer is playing Krusty the Clown for one of his Krusty Burger openings, because he kind of thereabouts looks like Krusty, and he beats up the little kind of hamburglar guy for trying to steal the burger, and there's just this one kid, he's just wailing on him, and this kid's like, stop, he's already dead. And that's like, by the time you get through this album and all of its chugging, punishing riffs, that's kind of, you're like, okay, all right. And not to say that I was sick of it by any means, but doing a full listen through, that's kind of how I felt a little bit. But there are some seriously murky and grudgy guitar tones on this final track, and there is an ultimate chugging, like just like an old school, like, you know, we used to use open E, but now everybody tunes down to gent away and all that. But it's awesome, and I think there's some rototom work, as I think there is throughout this album as well. But this track kind of, in my opinion, ends things on a little bit of a whimper with the little synthy outro. But you know, maybe it could be intrigue. Maybe I'm confusing that for intrigue. Either way, at this point, they owe us nothing. It's a fantastic album. So here are my final thoughts. And by the way, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Go check out some of the other stuff I've been doing. Let me know what your thoughts are, what I've said in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, or think I'm the dumbest human you've ever seen on the internet. Please let me know about that in the comments, because that would be a hell of an achievement if you haven't been paying attention to some of the shit on the internet these days. But anyways, let's give you my final rating here. I'm going to give this thing 8 drunken bald guys high on trucker speed holding an obsidian dagger and a Boss Metal Zone out of 10 drunken bald guys high on trucker speed holding an obsidian dagger and a Boss Metal Zone guitar pedal. So 8 out of 10 is what I'm going to say. It's solid, right? It's not the best thing I've heard by them, I would say. I'd say that Ice, Death, Planets, Lungs, Mushrooms, and Lava is still my favorite album by them, and I think that it best displays what they are in their own skin. But even if PetroDragonic Apocalypse is a homage or an exploration of beloved tropes, it still fucking rocks. This is a band with 24 albums that shows no sign of stopping. Maybe one day they'll distill themselves down to their absolute core and give us their Rubber Soul or their Dark Side of the Moon. But in the meantime, if they just want to keep crapping out albums and riffs on a Zappa like in the 70s level, I'm fine with that. And they definitely seem to be having fun, which is really all they probably care about anyways. So on a closing note, if you're like me and you wonder how they do it, how they put out so much music in so little time and keep the quality for the most part so high, I can definitively tell you after that album, it is because they do trucker speed.